Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being truly well-informed.
Today, we're plunging headfirst into something really complex, a crucial question, actually,
Yeah, what compels someone, anyone really, to lay bare their most vulnerable experiences, even, a criminal past right out there in the public eye?
which online especially can be pretty unforgiving.
Totally. So we're exploring this world of online trust, deception, and honestly, the extraordinary courage it takes sometimes to confront these things head on.
It's a huge topic, and what makes this particular deep dive, well, unique, I think, is where we're getting our insights from.
Right. This isn't coming from, say, polished documentaries or some formal academic research.
No, not at all. Instead, we're drawing from raw, unscripted live conversations, the kind that actually unfolded in X Spaces, what used to be Twitter Spaces.
So imagine you're just listening in, eavesdropping almost, on these real-time, completely unfiltered exchanges.
Yeah, between people who haven't just, read about online scams and digital threats.
No, they've actively navigated these treacherous waters themselves.
We're talking about people who have genuinely been there. You've got victims of really profound betrayal. You have reformed perpetrators, people who used to use deception as a tool, a weapon even.
And then you have these proactive advocates, people now fighting on the front lines against these very digital threats.
It's an incredibly rich tapestry of experience. It really is.
And that's precisely the strength here, isn't it? Hearing directly from those who've lived it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It provides a level of authenticity that, well, traditional research often just can't capture.
So our mission today is to unpack the personal motivations, the often surprising experiences of these individuals.
And we're focusing particularly on how their willingness to be vulnerable, to be open on a public platform, how that led to some profound insights.
And maybe even a unique form of collective defense against these digital threats.
Exactly. And we'll be paying special attention to the host of these specific spaces, a guy named ADanielHill's.
Yeah, and how his unique approach really fostered this environment of, candor and really courageous sharing.
And the source material itself is interesting too, right? The dynamic nature of it.
Oh, yeah. You hear the occasional technical glitches, unexpected questions pop up.
It just adds to the authenticity, mirroring the unpredictable nature of online interactions.
It really is a fascinating look at how a personal history, even a profoundly challenging one, can become the very foundation for unique insight and connection.
So to really get how these courageous, candid conversations unfolded, we kind of have to start with the architect himself.
The unexpected figure who built the very foundation for it, Daniel Hill.
Right. So who is Daniel Hill? To understand him, you need to know he's a self-taught cybersecurity professional. Decades of experience.
Pretty impressive credentials, too. Even collaborations with Interpol mentioned. He definitely has a formidable technical background.
He does. But like you said, his story isn't just about the tech expertise. What's truly fascinating here is his complex and very, very public past.
Yeah, the sources mention that label Uruguay's first hacker jailed. It followed that widely publicized Operation Bitcoins affair back in, 2017?
That's one.
Yeah.
He describes his imprisonment as a sad, unbelievable, yet true story that, fundamentally changed him.
And that's his narrative. It's crucial to understand he consistently maintains his innocence regarding that specific crime.
Despite being cleared of any criminal record after a rigorous 4-year process, this experience isn't just a footnote for him. It's absolutely central.
It really is, to his public story anyway. And kind of counterintuitively, it became a cornerstone of his ability to bring together such diverse and often vulnerable voices.
How so?
Well, his personal ordeal with the justice system, which he details in his book Operation Bitcoins, Log into Hell, it profoundly shaped his worldview.
Okay.
He came out of it with this deep belief that human knowledge belongs to the world and that systemic failings, they need to be challenged.
Right.
And this very public vulnerability, his willingness to share such a raw, difficult personal history, that's what sets him apart.
It forms the basis of his unique credibility, you could say.
Exactly. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real, being transparent, and showing you've wrestled with significant challenges yourself.
And his approach to this past isn't one of, hiding it. It's the complete opposite. His radical transparency, as the sources call it, that forms the bedrock of his public persona. He openly discusses his flaws, his past mistakes, everything.
Which became this powerful tool for disarming others, right?
Yeah.
Making them feel comfortable sharing their flaws.
He's even talked about being hacked himself.
Yeah, and get this. He admitted to intentionally infecting his own computers, just out of pure curiosity.
Seriously?
Yeah, he explicitly said, I have been hacked. Okay, I've even hacked myself out of curiosity, once infecting myself with an RRAP.
Hooray, a remote access Trojan.
That's the one.
Wow.
Malicious software that lets someone else take control remotely. And he openly admitted, I have actually put in risk my work when I executed that R80.
Wow. That's a major admission.
Yeah.
Putting his own professional work at risk just to understand how a threat works.
That level of directness about his own imperfections, it's incredibly disarming.
Yeah, it makes him seem more human, less like some untouchable expert.
Exactly. He stresses his belief, saying, whoever claims he's an expert and can never be hacked, my respects, I'm not that kind of person.
That humility is so relatable. It shows even people deep in this field can make missteps. The key is learning, right? And sharing those lessons.
Totally. And this radical openness, it extends to sharing even more profound personal details.
Like what?
He says, I share a lot of things about me, my life, and why I do it for a purpose that I want actually to people believe and on show that I am genuine.
So he wants people to see he's authentic, that his intentions are, well, pure.
Yeah. He even makes this striking, almost provocative statement to highlight his accountability. He tells listeners, if you have a problem with me, you know where to find me. I have no problem with that.
That's incredibly direct.
Wow. And that level of directness, that willingness to be completely exposed, it's rare. And it absolutely commands a certain kind of trust.
It invites others to be equally open, I guess.
It sounds like he doesn't just talk about transparency. He truly lives it, even when it comes to his own life choices.
He absolutely does. There's this compelling anecdote about his fiancée that powerfully underscores his personal connection to both the risks and, the potential rewards of online trust.
Okay.
He met her online, and she showed this immense level of trust by actually coming to meet him in Uruguay.
Wow.
Without initially telling her family or friends.
Think about that leap of faith for a moment. That's huge.
It is. And he describes his own anxiety about her safety, how he tried to get her to share his passport and phone bill with her family, his details, just to ensure they knew she was safe when she arrived.
So he wanted them to have ways to verify him or contact him if needed.
Exactly. It really emphasizes his genuine belief in the possibility of real connection, even amidst all the dangers online.
So pulling it all together, his core motivation seems to stem from this deep belief that by sharing experiences, especially the difficult ones, victims or people who've learned lessons the hard way, they can help protect others. He wants people to believe and on show that I am genuine.
It sounds like helping others navigate these complex waters is really gratifying for him.
It seems to be. This unique blend he has, the humor, the profound transparency, the deeply personal stake, it creates this really approachable, trustworthy, and engaging environment for discussing such sensitive topics.
Yeah, his willingness to be vulnerable, to be direct, it encourages others to do the same. It really sets the tone.
It truly highlights how his personal courage, flaws and all, became the bedrock for this platform of collective vulnerability and learning. It demonstrates a unique kind of digital bravery.
And this commitment to radical transparency isn't just a philosophy. You can see it in his consistent, actually increasing presence on X Spaces.
Oh, yeah. His usage has evolved significantly since he started using the platform, around October 2020?
Right. Early on, 2020 to 2021, his use of Spaces kind of laid the groundwork. You saw events like his first-year celebration, the first InfoSec group space. By mid-2022, activity continued, showing this steady commitment to community engagement collaboration. He even said he was willing to collaborate with top Twitter Spaces hosts.
But what's truly striking is the recent uptick, right? 2023 to 2025.
Absolutely. As of July 2025, ADanielHill's hosted 28 spaces in the last 30 days.
28, that's nearly one space every single day.
Pretty much. Over the approximately 4.75 years since he started, he's hosted around 447 spaces.
Wow.
Which averages out to about 94 spaces per year, or like 7.8 per month. But yeah, the recent activity shows a clear, significant increase in frequency.
And the engagement numbers are pretty impressive too, right?
Yeah, an average of 76 participants per space. And his activity suggests he's among the most active compared to other cybersecurity figures on X.
And it's not just volume, the content is high value. At least one of his spaces, Decoding Digital Deception, Scams, Cybersecurity, and Safeguards, was explicitly rated 10/10 in value compared to similar content.
His discussions mainly center on cybersecurity, hacking, legal matters, but he also branches out.
Right, like into blockchain, and uniquely, his personal story as Uruguay's first hacker in prison. That adds a really unique background and depth.
For sure. And he collaborates with a truly diverse group of speakers.
Yeah, cybersecurity pros like at SB McAllister, at Kandil Azim, at Kripihef, at Scorpio Sparks, at Spydearbyte.
And tech enthusiasts too, like at Zia Scottsdale, at Apple Mechanic, at Anaro123.
That broad network within the cybersecurity and tech communities helps him attract a wider audience, richer perspectives.
Definitely. So he built this incredible platform, and it all started, interestingly enough, with a kind of surprising test.
Yeah, it's funny how it began. Alberto initially created a space about romance scams, but in a very sarcastic and ironic way.
Sarcastic, why?
It came from his own experience of being, as he put it, bombarded by DMs from seemingly hot women trying to hit on me.
Oh, okay. I think a lot of people can relate to getting those sorts of unsolicited messages.
Totally. So how did he react? Initially, it was this mix of humor and disbelief. He actually thought, and this is a quote, "Oh my God, am I so lucky or what?"
Huh? So, a bit of playful skepticism there.
Definitely. He embraced this initial skepticism with a humorous, almost playful approach. He said he initially started playing with those people just to see what did they want.
Like a casual experiment, just seeing what was behind these advances.
Exactly. It wasn't a serious investigation at first, more like pure curiosity, a bit of digital reconnaissance.
But then something shifted dramatically. That playful experimentation quickly led to a profound aha moment for him.
He realized this wasn't just a few random incidents, it was a pervasive problem. He observed, "I realized it was really bubbling. I was tired of that."
You start to see it everywhere once you really pay attention, don't you?
Right. And he was thinking, okay, what's going on? How many people actually pay attention to this? This realization, combined with finding TV shows like Catfish.
The show about online deception.
Exactly. That really ignited his interest in understanding this darker side of virtual relationships. So what started as a joke, a casual experiment, quickly transformed into a serious discussion platform.
And what's truly intriguing is how this test space kind of took on a life of its own. The turning point was quite serendipitous. It wasn't planned.
How?
As he put it, it happened that some people appeared that had certain different fields of expertise related to the topic that, wow, were really amazing to have them here.
So experts just showed up spontaneously.
Yeah. This unplanned convergence of victims, former criminals, experts in different fields, just organically joined the conversation.
Wow. That willingness to open the forum, even for a sarcastic topic, gave the space this incredible organic depth.
And that brings us back to Alberto himself. A huge part of why these diverse, often vulnerable voices felt comfortable sharing, especially on a relatively unknown public platform like an X space.
Yeah.
It must have been his unique personality and his radical approach to transparency we talked about.
It has to be. He seems to live by the philosophy, in order to know the enemy, you have to see the enemy.
And during this test space, there's a specific example of him patiently guiding Anna Rowe through her first space ever.
Oh, right. He explained the basics, like clicking links, accepting speaker invites.
Yeah, that step-by-step guidance. It further demonstrates his commitment to ensuring comfort, understanding. That contributes significantly to building trust, especially on a new platform like a live broadcast.
He wasn't just inviting, he was supporting, enabling.
Exactly. And this technical rehearsal quickly took on a life of its own. Other people started joining, maybe drawn by the title, maybe by Alberto's presence.
And it created this raw, unscripted exchange that totally showcased his unique ability to foster candid sharing.
It wasn't pre-planned at all. It was a genuine, unfolding conversation, spiraling in the best way into unexpected, incredibly personal territory.
That unscripted authenticity is precisely what allowed true connection to flourish. You could almost feel the walls coming down in real time.
And during this unexpected test, Anna Rowe's core philosophy powerfully emerged. She shared quite openly.
When I go through something negative, I have to turn it into something positive. That's an amazing perspective. It highlights her incredible resilience, her commitment to transforming trauma into constructive action.
A philosophy that resonates deeply with Alberto's own journey, turning his past into advocacy.
Absolutely. It showed her as someone who actively seeks purpose, even in adversity. And then one of the most striking coincidences happened.
What was that?
The appearance of Boston, a Nigerian Uber driver whom Alberto had known for years. He just popped into the space.
Really? Out of the blue?
Yeah. And Alberto immediately defended him, humorously preempting any prejudiced assumptions given the topic of scams. He said, "I can guarantee you, I'm not joking. At this point, he's not a scammer."
Wow. That quick, unequivocal defense, especially challenging common stereotypes around Nigerians and scams, That was a powerful demonstration of Alberto's character.
Totally. His commitment to fair judgment instantly disarmed potential skepticism. And then he introduced Boston directly to Anna right there.
Creating this immediate, unexpected connection, bridging continents and backgrounds right there in the test space.
It's a vivid illustration of the real-world human relationships Alberto builds and fosters, not just online avatars.
It's a powerful example of genuine connection. And this introduction led to a truly fascinating, unscripted discussion about online crime in Nigeria.
Right. Alberto prompted Boston on his perception of local criminals using the internet.
And Boston was remarkably honest, wasn't he? Admitting that, of course, we have the good and the bad.
Yeah. And Anna contributed, describing a bipolar difference she observed in comments on Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission website.
She noted the stark contrast between the Yahoo boys, the fraudsters often linked to Nigeria, and the many Nigerian citizens genuinely ashamed of these activities and their country being associated with them.
It provided a very nuanced perspective from both Boston and Anna, a deeper look into the societal complexities.
Highlighting that criminal actions by a few don't define an entire nation or its people.
Exactly. They also discussed the hierarchy within crime, how top bad people are like employers, largely untouchable by authorities.
Due to what was described as a core of power or immense untouchable influence.
This wasn't a superficial chat at all. It delved into systemic issues that empower these criminals, context you rarely hear publicly.
All stemming from Alberto bringing these disparate voices together.
And Anna's insights weren't just theoretical, they came from deep immersion. She revealed her own unique and, frankly, quite risky method of research.
What did she say?
She said, I've been hiding out in scammer groups for over 6 years now and researching and studying what goes on. I kind of get a really holistic view. I work with victims, but I also hide out with the scammers as well.
Wow. That shows incredible commitment, understanding the problem from all angles, and a willingness to step into risky, uncomfortable territory for knowledge.
The fact she shared such a personal, potentially dangerous detail in an unscripted moment in a test space,
Well,
it speaks volumes about the comfortable, trusting atmosphere Alberto created.
she felt safe enough to be that open. That's significant.
And in the same candid environment, Alberto's own fiancé, the one he met online, unexpectedly joined the call.
No way. Spontaneously.
Totally spontaneous. Again, showcasing the deep human connections fostered there and revealing unexpected vulnerability.
What did she share?
She candidly shared her deeply personal struggle. Her ongoing painful divorce from what she called a narcissistic ex-husband who was making her life as miserable as possible.
Oh, that sounds awful.
She detailed how he was using their 3 daughters as tools for control, a pattern of post-separation abuse and economic abuse.
And most strikingly, she shared how this ex-husband had falsely accused Alberto of being an online scammer during their divorce proceedings.
Whoa, so that directly linked the personal attacks against Alberto to the very theme they were discussing.
Underscoring the real-world impact of his past even after his exoneration. It showed listeners his history wasn't just some distant event. It was actively impacting his personal life right then.
That's incredibly powerful context, and it raises this huge question. How did she, having been vulnerable online before, now facing accusations that Alberto himself was a scammer? How did she come to trust him so completely, so quickly?
That's the key question, isn't it?
Her answer is so insightful, it gets right to the core of this deep dive. She said, I know I did a really crazy thing, but it was. I really trusted Alberto already, and I knew so much about him.
Okay.
It was like Alberto isn't the person who is hiding behind some name or anonymous profile, right? He's not anonymous, so it's kind of a little bit different story with him. Otherwise, I wouldn't trust him that much, probably.
Wow. That is a powerful, almost raw endorsement of his radical transparency. Proof that for some, a known, even controversial past is far more trustworthy than the anonymity cloaking online predators.
She found safety in his open book.
This direct expression of trust unequivocally underscores that transparency as the key factor. It wasn't blind faith. It was based on knowing so much about him, implying his open sharing had built this profound, undeniable foundation.
And what's more, Alberto also shared his own anxieties about their initial meeting. He revealed his nervousness when she traveled alone to Uruguay for the first time.
He was worried about her safety.
He was freaked out, he said. So much so that he sent her copies of my passport, my phone bill, my phone number, everything to share with her family.
Just to ensure she felt safe and supported, that they knew who he was.
Yeah. It highlights his personal stake in this whole topic of online trust and risk. He practices what he preaches, caring deeply about the safety of those he connects with.
And his willingness to express this vulnerability about his own relationship, his fears, further cemented that environment of candor and mutual respect in the space.
You could really hear the pain, but also the strength in her voice when she shared her story. A stark reminder that these online challenges have very real, very painful human consequences for whole families.
And Alberto's response to her sharing was just as raw, just as unguarded. You could hear his deep emotional connection to her struggle.
He openly expressed his anger at her ex-husband, saying, "I hate seeing her suffering the way this guy is making her suffer," and declared, "I support her with my heart. I love her to death."
That raw, unscripted exchange, mirroring the unpredictable personal nature of online interactions. It further showcased Alberto's unique ability to foster such profound candor.
Even about his own imperfections, anxieties, and fierce protectiveness. He's not just a host in these moments, he's a deeply empathetic individual.
Using his own life, his own vulnerabilities, as a canvas for the themes he discusses, which clearly resonates deeply with the people he brings into his orbit.
This personal investment, this willingness to be truly seen, flaws and all, is a huge part of why people trusted him enough to reveal their own complex stories.
Pulling back from these deeply personal moments in the test space, this unfolding tapestry of trust and vulnerability, it meant that Alberto's unique ability to create that environment wasn't just limited to that initial conversation.
No, it was the very foundation for the main event.
And it's precisely why that main event, decoding digital deception, scams, cybersecurity, and safeguards, was so extraordinary.
The main discussion was described as exceptionally diverse and unprecedented, precisely because Alberto's radical transparency, his willingness to share his own flaws and past mistakes. It effectively disarmed others.
He acknowledged the difficulty in getting those behind on this to speak openly, yet he succeeded.
This allowed individuals, many of whom hardly go public, as the sources say, to feel comfortable like no other context.
That level of comfort, where people who usually operate in shadows or protect their privacy felt safe enough to share their deepest experiences, that directly reflects the unique trust Alberto cultivated.
It's a testament to his character that he could bridge such seemingly insurmountable divides.
And when you look at the lineup Alberto managed to assemble for the main event, Anna Rowe, Brett Johnson, Scorpio Spider, it really makes you pause.
Yeah, it's difficult to imagine them sharing a stage normally.
First, you had Anna Rowe, the victim advocate, bringing crucial insights into psychological manipulation with her no blame, no shame mantra for victims.
This essential perspective came from her own traumatic experience. She was a victim of a very specific type of romance fraud, where the abuser, a UK lawyer, primarily sought sexual motives and got a kick out of the power and control.
Horrifying. He'd abused at least 17 women.
Yeah. Instead of being consumed by it, she made the transformative decision to use that traumatic situation to actually turn into something positive and start doing things in order to prevent other people from suffering.
An immense display of resilience, turning personal pain into advocacy.
And it was her first space ever, despite extensive speaking experience, highlighting her willingness to embrace new avenues for her cause.
Then you had Brett Johnson, whom the United States Secret Service called the original Internet Godfather.
Right. His past is astonishing. 39 felonies placed on the U.S. Most Wanted list, even escaped from prison once.
He built Shadow Crew, described as the first organized cyber crime community.
So a major figure in early cybercrime. But what's he doing now?
That's the remarkable pivot. He now states, "I worked my ass off to protect businesses and consumers from that type of attacker that I used to be."
Wow. From Godfather to Protector, quite the transformation. What prompted that shift?
His crucial realization didn't happen overnight, or even necessarily when he was caught. He said, "It wasn't until I started to turn my life around and started to interact with victims that I started to understand the damage that I had done."
Interacting with victims, that was the key, it seems. Truly understanding the human cost of his actions.
That personal epiphany, really grasping the human cost, that's what underlines his motivation for transparency now. It gives him this unique vantage point.
That's powerful, that it took that direct human connection for the gravity to really sink in. And from that unique perspective, does he share any specific insights?
He does, and some are quite counterintuitive. He challenges the conventional wisdom that simply raising awareness doesn't mean that you're going to somehow protect yourself.
Why not?
He argues from his experience that criminals are better at committing crime than the common person on the street is at protecting themselves.
That's a sobering thought. He understands the dedication, the skill, the 24/7 nature of that criminal lifestyle.
Exactly. So for him, Just being aware isn't enough against a determined, skilled attacker.
So, if awareness isn't the silver bullet, what does he emphasize?
His most urgent plea, drawing directly from his own criminal experience, is for victims to report crimes, report, report, report.
Report, report, report. Why so adamant?
He states it so powerfully.
Yeah.
Not reporting or not calling the police on me resulted in me keeping on going because what consequences did I have? None.
Wow. Hearing that from him is incredibly impactful. He emphasizes the emboldening effect of unpunished crime.
Reporting isn't just about justice for one person. It's about preventing future victims, interrupting that criminal sense of impunity. It's critical data for law enforcement.
Makes sense. Okay, who else was there?
Next up, we heard from someone known as Spider. He was introduced as a black hat activist, deeply involved in the anonymous movement since 2009.
Black hat activist. Okay. His methods are definitely outside the usual legal lines, right? Ethically complex, controversial.
Very much so. He actively engages in catching predators and traffickers using bait software or stealers, essentially malware, on platforms like Roblox to identify and expose malicious actors. He even mentioned catching other hackers.
So essentially fighting fire with fire. That's definitely risky.
Hugely risky. And Spider explicitly acknowledges the illegality and the potential personal danger.
Yeah.
He said, I've been doing it since 2011 when it comes to getting caught because I'm doing something illegal to help the people.
He's been doing this illegal work for over a decade, and he's completely open about it. Why take that risk?
His core unwavering belief seems to be simple: exposing what needs to be exposed to the public, no matter what. It reflects this deep frustration with systemic failures. He sharply observes that those who are supposed to do those good things are not doing their jobs, and somebody else has to do what's right.
So he sees himself as stepping into a void left by official channels. His courage lies in taking these significant personal risks for what he perceives as the greater good.
And he clarified the anonymous philosophy. It's never been a group, it's always been an idea. Anyone can participate if they represent the movement and its core mission.
Which is?
To expose on what needs to be exposed to the public, clear out databases, and leak the databases.
He illustrated the impact of distributed denial of service, DDoS attacks, which essentially flood a website with so much junk traffic it crashes.
Right. He cited Operation Ferguson, where police websites were shut down for hours or days, and Operation Georgia, where they gained access to every single government ministry website and 27,000 Georgian computers, leading to free public transport, apparently.
Wow. Real-world impact. And he also made a candid confession from the test space, right?
Yeah, about past romance scamming on Instagram and involvement in supplying information for hitman services on the dark web, later clarified as providing addresses through referrals.
A stark reminder of how complex and varied experiences can be for individuals operating in these spheres. Okay, who's next?
Finally, we turn to Scorpio. And her story powerfully illustrates the vulnerability of even technically aware individuals.
How so?
She shared this really poignant story of being targeted by a stolen valor scammer, someone falsely claiming military service right after her father's death. And her father was a Vietnam veteran.
Oh, no. So she was targeted during a period of intense grief?
Precisely. It highlights how emotional states can tragically override even deep-seated expertise or awareness.
Did she have technical expertise?
She did, and that's the compelling part. Even with cybersecurity certification, she openly said, I'm also certified in cybersecurity, so I could put myself in positions because I know how to protect myself. So she knew the technical risks.
But she admitted that emotional vulnerability, what she described as tending to react emotionally to things, made her a target because, as she put it, it becomes much easier for me to manipulate you.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Emotion can absolutely cloud judgment.
And her crucial warning was about the unseen danger of seemingly innocuous personal details. Things shared across various online spaces, maybe over years.
Yeah.
Which can be meticulously pieced together by predators to put a target on me.
So it's not just about one interaction. It's about your entire digital footprint being weaponized against you. That's chilling.
It's a powerful lesson. No amount of technical knowledge can fully insulate you from human manipulation, especially when you're emotionally compromised.
If even a cybersecurity expert can be manipulated when emotionally vulnerable, what does that tell us about our own defenses?
It suggests the weakest link often isn't the technology, but our own human response to carefully crafted manipulation. It really drives home the insidious, patient nature of some of these attacks.
That's a gut-wrenching truth, isn't it? It just shows how even the most technically savvy among us are fundamentally human, And those emotional vulnerabilities are precisely what scammers hunt for.
So, if we distill all these personal narratives, Anna, Brett, Spider, Scorpio, and Alberto setting the stage, what's the common thread?
Despite these vastly different backgrounds and experiences, the victim, the reformed criminal, the black hat activist, the cybersecurity expert, their shared willingness to openly discuss their struggles, their hard-won insights on a public platform,
Uh-huh.
an unknown one for some.
Yeah.
Just profound testament to their bravery, their resilience, and this collective commitment to helping others.
It really does exemplify what it means to have courage in the digital age, creating this powerful collective voice that resonates far beyond what any single person could achieve alone.
Absolutely. Okay, so with these individual stories as a backdrop, let's zoom out a bit. Let's dig into the broader mechanics of digital trust and deception. Where does it all begin?
Well, it really starts with a fundamental human trait, our predisposition to trust. As humans, we're fundamentally wired to trust.
Right. Think about everyday life. We trust doctors have their qualifications, or like one speaker put it, the food that's on the supermarket shelves hasn't been poisoned. You don't question these things constantly.
No, you can't function in society without some baseline level of trust. You just can't.
There are countless aspects of our daily lives where we simply have to trust, and this natural inclination, this cornerstone of society, is precisely what sophisticated scammers relentlessly exploit.
They turn our inherent trust into a profound vulnerability.
And this is where the psychological aspect truly takes center stage, isn't it? Targeting those emotional vulnerabilities.
Yeah. Scammers specifically target emotional weak points. They understand that certain emotional states like profound grief, loneliness, or what psychologists sometimes call hot states.
Hot states.
Those moments when our emotions are running so high that our logical defenses are temporarily lowered make individuals far more susceptible to manipulation.
Okay, that makes sense.
This is exactly where relationship schemes come in, because they operate squarely on emotion, creating illusions of friendship or romance.
So when you're in that hot state, your logical defenses are down. Your cognitive biases might be heightened, making you an easier target, because critical thinking gets momentarily sidelined by that strong emotional need or response.
And the tactics scammers use, they're not just quick hits, are they? They're constantly evolving.
Oh, constantly evolving. It's a relentless technological arms race in the digital underworld. Scammers invest significant time and effort, sometimes months or a year, just to get to know their targets.
Months or a year just to build trust and gather info. That's a serious commitment from a criminal.
It is. It's about building deep trust, gathering information. Brett emphasized this isn't just a job, it's a criminal lifestyle for a reason. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or 365 days a year.
Always vigilant, always looking for that opening.
Exactly. It's a crime of opportunity.
And the technology they're using now, AI, deepfakes, it sounds like science fiction, but it's terrifyingly real. The implications are chilling.
Voice cloning, for instance. It can be done with a disturbing ease from maybe just 30 seconds of someone's voice taken from a video online,
Just 30 seconds, that's all it takes.
apparently. And then there's face swap, or shallow fake technology. This is used for live video calls.
Live calls, how does that work?
They superimpose a stolen or synthetic face over the scammer's actual face, often with lip syncing to make it appear authentic.
So you could be on a video call, seeing a face you trust, hearing a voice you recognize, believing it's a real person. Imagine them saying something like, "Just so that you know I'm not a scammer," and using your name.
To personalize it, make it seem legit, that's deeply unsettling.
Has the technology gotten good?
That's the scary part. What once looked pretty cartoonish has become incredibly realistic. Those old safeguards, like asking someone to turn their head or make a specific gesture on video, they're becoming largely ineffective because the fakes can increasingly mimic those movements. The speed of improvement in this AI technology is what's particularly alarming.
So what's next? What does the near future hold? You mentioned Brett had a prediction.
He did, and it's a dire one. He said, 18 months from now, that game is going to look completely different.
18 months? That's very soon. What changes does he foresee?
He predicts a terrifying shift away from just stealing existing identities towards entirely synthetically created profiles generated purely through AI.
Fake people, essentially, built from scratch, with a full backstory, voice, face.
Exactly. Wow. Imagine trying to hire someone, make a business deal, or even just video call a family member and having that constant gnawing doubt about whether the person on the other end is real.
He believes it will lead to a society where we're not being able to trust anything that they see or hear. That's a fundamental challenge to our perception of reality.
Does he think this is just for romance scams?
No. He warns it extends far beyond that, impacting business email compromise, account takeovers, really any type of criminal activity where identity and trust are paramount.
It could undermine trust across the board, making even simple online interactions fraught with uncertainty.
So, if deepfakes become undetectable, what happens to the tools we use now to verify people online, like reverse image search?
They're rapidly becoming obsolete. Google reverse image search, once pretty useful for spotting stolen photos, is now virtually pointless.
Why pointless?
Partly due to privacy legislation, making it harder to track images, but also the sheer sophistication of AI. It can generate unique faces or subtly alter existing ones just enough to evade detection.
So the old tricks simply don't work anymore.
Pretty much. What are people using now?
The reliance seems to be shifting towards paid services, like using AI to measure facial markers or needing really tenacious manual searching for tiny clues within photos.
Like a visible username on a shirt or a unique background detail.
Exactly, trying to find the real person whose images were stolen.
It sounds like an exhausting uphill battle for anyone just trying to verify who they're talking to online.
It really is. It forces this constant arms race between legitimate verification efforts and increasingly advanced deception techniques.
Okay, so the scams are sophisticated, hard to detect. What happens when someone does fall victim? You mentioned victim blaming earlier.
Yes, and it's a pervasive and deeply damaging problem. It compounds the initial trauma. Society's tendency to blame the victim often manifests in those questions like, why would you click on that link? Or why would you send money to someone you don't know?
Implying it's entirely their fault.
Exactly. And this judgment, this lack of empathy, it often leads to victims shutting off their traditional support groups, friends, family.
They become isolated. And then who do they talk to?
Often only the scammer, who then becomes their sole twisted source of support, further deepening the manipulation and making it harder for them to escape.
Brett powerfully argued that this isolation and societal judgment is a huge shame on society.
What's the impact of victims staying silent because of this shame or blame?
The impact is profound and far-reaching. We heard the statistic that only maybe 7% to 14% of victims actually report these crimes.
That is an incredibly low figure.
And that lack of reporting prevents law enforcement from understanding the true scale of the crime. They just don't have the data.
Which means police departments can't allocate sufficient resources, build comprehensive databases, or identify large-scale patterns.
Exactly. And for the criminals, critically, it emboldens them because they face no consequences, as Brett put it.
It allows them to continue, even escalate their activities, preying on more and more unsuspecting individuals. It creates this vicious cycle that's incredibly hard to break without comprehensive data and victims feeling safe enough to come forward.
Which brings us to systemic failures. Are law enforcement and the platforms themselves doing enough?
There was certainly strong criticism voiced in the space regarding law enforcement.
Like what?
There's a critique that priorities might be misplaced, sometimes focusing on, say, young boys and girls who are often just lower-level mules or entry-level scammers.
Instead of the organizers.
Instead of the top people that are doing the really, really bad things.
The implication being there's a hierarchy, and these top people are like the employers of the lower-level scammers, often operating with relative impunity.
Making it hard to dismantle the networks. It creates a challenging environment for real justice when the architects of the schemes often remain untouched.
This frustration with the system isn't unique to Alberto. We heard from others in the spaces, like Hector from Mexico.
What did he say?
He highlighted the critical role governments should play, asserting the government is the responsible for the information of the citizens to guard it. He underscored the deep flaw when the very systems meant to protect us are vulnerable.
We also heard concerns about the lack of transparency in legal proceedings, such as a colleague's confidential expediente or legal file preventing self-defense.
Something that resonated with Alberto's own experience of not fully understanding the charges against him until after his release.
It's a recurring theme. How can you defend yourself if you don't even know what you're up against?
And then there's the alarming issue of what was described as the ignorance of cybercrime among many legal professionals.
Who do not know an egg about what an IP is, what a SQL injection attack is, what a man in the middle is.
That's a significant hurdle. How can justice be effectively served if the very individuals prosecuting and judging these cases don't grasp the fundamental technical concepts involved?
It often leads to disproportionate punishment faced by hacktivists compared to the actual harm caused, or compared to real organized crime.
Some speakers suggested alternative measures like community service for nonviolent acts, emphasizing solutions over just blame.
It seems like the focus is often on finding someone to blame instead of fixing systemic vulnerabilities.
We also heard from Gob, who described himself as a black hat activist like Spider.
Right. Sharing his personal experience of defacing government websites in Uruguay and Argentina for political messages, not data theft.
He strongly denied alleged hacks of Renaper and police databases. He conveyed his frustration and sadness over his colleagues' unjust imprisonment and his feeling of being persecuted for wanting a more legal approach to highlighting vulnerabilities.
And this ties into the hacktivists' belief in the power of exposure. They argue that their hacks act as free pen testing for vulnerable government systems.
Demonstrating that the system can bleed, the system is weak. They see it as a necessary, albeit risky, form of public service.
And the risks are very real. Arrest, torture, imprisonment. Alberto himself accepts that his public stance is eventually putting me in danger for doing what I think is the right thing to do.
And Gob described living with nightmares due to his activities.
Which brings us to perhaps the most frustrating systemic failure. The platforms themselves, Facebook, Instagram, X, dating apps, are they verifying users effectively? Removing fakes?
The verdict in this space was pretty damning. The failure to adequately verify the identity of their users and remove fake or hacked accounts was described as, frankly, utterly ridiculous.
Strong words.
They are strong words, but the examples make them powerful. Alberto shared his own frustrating experience. His verified Twitter account was impersonated.
His verified account.
Yes. And the fake account remained active despite multiple reports from him and others.
Incredible. His own verified account impersonated, and X didn't remove it promptly.
Not promptly, no.
Unbelievable.
There was also an example given of a verified fake profile using Kevin Costner's pictures that remained online for some time.
Kevin Costner. All right. It speaks to a fundamental flaw in verification and oversight, doesn't it?
It truly does, and it's disturbingly easy, apparently. Someone mentioned accounts can be bought for as little as 25 cents with a verified badge included.
25 cents for a verified account.
That was the claim. It creates this endless cycle, as one speaker noted, where if Instagram and Facebook and all these platforms are trying to knock down all these scams, there's always the next scam on how to bypass that other scam.
A constant game of cat and mouse, and the platforms seem perpetually a step behind.
That's the impression, yes. A continuous uphill battle.
Okay, so the challenges are immense. Evolving tech, psychological manipulation, victim blaming, systemic failures. With all this, what can people actually do? Are there concrete strategies for protection and advocacy?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
While the battle is constant, there are things individuals and communities can do. First, individual self-protection starts with cultivating healthy boundaries online.
Healthy boundaries, like what?
Anna offered crucial advice on recognizing red flags, particularly in online relationships. She emphasized, a healthy relationship builds over time. It's not something that happens very quickly and moves very fast.
So pace is a key indicator, a huge one.
She advises taking a step back if things feel overwhelming or if the pace of emotional intimacy just feels unnatural, too fast.
This isn't just about spotting a scammer. It's about fostering psychological resilience in all your online interactions.
That makes sense. Being mindful of the emotional tempo. What about technical steps?
Well, for those already vigilant, the recommendation for multiple email addresses might sound basic separate emails for different things, right?
But its importance can't be overstated. It's not just about being tidy. It's a critical strategy for compartmentalizing risk.
How does that help?
By strictly segmenting your digital identities, maybe one email for social media, another for banking, another for shopping, you create firewalls.
Oh, okay.
If one account gets compromised, the damage is contained. It makes it exponentially harder for attackers to jump from, say, your social media to your bank account.
Okay, so compartmentalizing risk, that's a good practical tip. What else on the individual level?
Scrutinizing profiles. We talked about obvious red flags, but also be aware of the common professions scammers often adopt, like military, doctors, engineers.
Why those specifically?
They aren't random choices. Scammers strategically pick professions like military personnel, often conveniently deployed, which seems trustworthy. Doctors, especially UN or military ones, engineers, contractors on overseas big projects explaining absences, and offshore workers like oil rigs or marine engineers.
They all have built-in reasons for being hard to meet or having patchy communication, and they often carry an image of trustworthiness or heroism.
Right. The insight for you, the listener, is to question not just the profession itself, but why it might be chosen. It's often a calculated psychological move to lower your guard and explain away inconsistencies or later demands for money.
Got it. Look beyond the surface. What about backstories?
Be wary of common sad backstories. Often they claim to be widowed or orphaned, maybe involving what Anna called the 4 Cs:
The four C's.
car crash, childbirth, cancer, or cheated.
Okay.
And more recently, COVID has been added to that list. These stories are designed purely to evoke empathy and manipulate emotions, creating an instant, often unearned bond.
So watch out for those overly tragic, sympathy-inducing narratives. Any visual clues on profiles?
Yes, be really nosy on the profiles, as one speaker put it. Check the tag sections. Does anyone tag them? Check their follower demographics. Do they seem to match the person's claimed profile? And look for signs that maybe all the photos were uploaded on a single recent date. That's a big red flag for a fake profile.
These are good practical tips. What about clicking links? That seems basic, but crucial.
It is absolutely critical. Both Spider and Scorpio issued a strong warning. Don't click on links on your mobile device.
Why specifically mobile?
It's often harder to verify the true destination of link on a phone screen. On a computer, you can usually right-click or hover over the link to see if the address is really what it claims to be, like Instagram.com or whatever, or if it's a deceptive URL.
Ah, okay. Easier to mask malicious links on mobile.
And those malicious links can grab your IP address, device information, even if photos themselves don't contain GPS data anymore because platforms strip it. A bad link is still a major entry point for scammers.
It's a simple rule, but incredibly effective. Be suspicious of links, especially unexpected ones.
Okay, so individual vigilance is key.
Mm.
What about beyond the individual? Community actions, reporting.
Yes, community and parental responsibility play a massive role in collective defense. Brett's passionate plea for victims to report crimes, report, is central here.
Why is reporting so vital again?
Because doing so provides crucial data for law enforcement. It helps them build cases, understand trends, and perhaps most importantly, it can prevent criminals from escalating because they finally face consequences, or at least know they're on the radar.
Every report contributes to that bigger picture. Makes sense. What about protecting younger people? Kids are online so much now.
Parental vigilance is paramount. The speakers stress the need for parents to talk openly with their children about online dangers, especially concerning popular gaming platforms like Roblox and GTA 5, which were mentioned.
Kids spend hours there.
Exactly. And chat apps like Discord and Telegram. These are known breeding grounds for predators and scammers targeting kids. It's a scary landscape for parents.
Any specific advice given?
The discussion touched upon the severity of the threat, with one suggestion, perhaps extreme, but telling being the idea of returning to brick phones.
Old-style non-smartphones. Wow, back to basics. That really underscores the concern.
And alongside vigilance, early intervention through education is key.
Educating kids about the risks.
Yes. There was mention of a successful UK pilot program that delivered 22 lessons about all different types of cybercrime and abuse to 13, 14-year-olds, teaching them about online dangers, grooming, extortion, scams, and crucially, how to respond safely.
Starting that education early seems vital, building digital resilience from a young age.
Foundational education about online risks and responsible digital citizenship is a vital form of prevention. So we have individual actions, community reporting, parental guidance, education. What ties it all together?
Ultimately, it comes back to that indomitable power of speaking out, sharing stories, breaking the silence.
Yes. Anna and another advocate, Nikki, shared this powerful common belief. If doing this or going public saved just one person from being hurt, it's been worth it.
That highlights the selfless nature of this advocacy, doesn't it? Transcending personal pain for a larger purpose.
It truly does, transforming individual trauma into this powerful force for good. And Alberto, the host, what was his take on the role of platforms in this?
He reiterated his heartfelt desire for platforms to essentially step up, to provide us a voice and amplify all these so important messages to the users of the platform that are basically the potential victims.
He wants them to amplify the warnings and the support to give voice to the victims and advocates.
Right, exactly. And sharing personal stories, even those involving past mistakes like Brett's criminal history or Alberto's own hacking incidents or moments of vulnerability, like Scorpio's experience during grief.
Yeah.
It provides invaluable lessons, context, and maybe most importantly, a sense of shared humanity in the face of these digital threats.
Yeah.
It normalizes talking about it, reduces the shame.
Precisely. It's about building a collective intelligence, a shared understanding against these pervasive dangers.
But it's an ongoing battle, right? The landscape keeps shifting.
Absolutely. We have to acknowledge that despite all these efforts, advocacy, education, individual vigilance, the landscape of online crime is constantly evolving, constantly growing, especially with the rapid advancement of AI we discussed.
It makes the fight against it an ongoing, continuous challenge that requires constant adaptation from all of us.
Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, we've journeyed through the intricate mechanics of online scams and digital deception.
But perhaps more importantly, we've explored the profound human element.
We've seen the vulnerability of victims, the cunning of perpetrators, and the extraordinary courage and transparency of those willing to share their most personal stories, their mistakes, their traumas, to protect others.
We saw how Alberto's audacious willingness to be an open book created a space where others felt safe enough to be vulnerable too. He transformed those personal struggles into a powerful collective defense right there in that live, unpredictable space.
It leaves us with a critical question, doesn't it? For all of us listening. In this increasingly sophisticated digital world where AI is rapidly blurring the lines of what we see and hear, how will we truly know who or what to trust?
It's the central challenge of our time.
And maybe, just maybe, in a future where synthetic identities and real-time deepfakes make it almost impossible sometimes to discern reality from illusion, perhaps the most critical skill we need to cultivate isn't just more skepticism, though we certainly need that.
What else then?
Perhaps it's the renewed courage to foster genuine human connections, even online, to ask the difficult questions. And critically, to truly believe those who bravely step forward to share their authentic truths, no matter how uncomfortable those truths might be.
Trusting the vulnerable voices, the real
Yeah.
experiences, seems more vital than ever.
It makes you wonder, what does it truly mean to know someone in the digital age? And how will our collective courage, our willingness to share and to listen, shape the very fabric of online interaction moving forward?
Something profound to think about as we navigate this ever-evolving digital landscape.